statement, and whatever statements we make, it would be based on some assumptions, some expectations. So please take it as that. Scope of my presentation, broadly it will cover 4 topics. What is the current scenario for us? PVC is useful in all these priorities. So pipes, we of course know how it helps transporting clean water, sanitary pipes, modern houses where all the major portions like floors, roofing, window frames, everything is made of PVC. Of course, very significant portion in healthcare like IV and blood bags, all the capsules and tablets that people consume, everything is packed in PVC. And of course, films to conserve food. So, so industry update, let us go. This is the global scenario. Of course, it was not, I would say, very healthy year for PVC industry globally. India is a separate story that we will come together. But if we look at global consumption, 22, it was close to 47 million tons, whereas capacity is close to 60 million tons. Northeast Asia, primarily China and Taiwan, of course, and North America and Europe. This together, they form about 71% of world PVC demand. And why it's important? Because whatever problems or whatever issues we saw last year, all these 3 areas, they had their own issues as far as PVC production or demand is concerned. For next 5 years, demand is expected to be about 2 to 3%, and this has been the trend normally. Global demand, it has been in the range of about say 3% growth. Suspension PVC, of course, we all know it's 95% of total PVC production. Rest is mass PVC and paste PVC. And new capacities that are largely being added these days, it's mainly coming from China. So if I talk of say 2022, nearly 60% of global capacity addition was in China, and this year 23, almost 80% of global capacity addition is in China. And if just to give a number, in 22 we had 1 million ton new capacity globally, and in this year 23 it's going to be 2.3 million tons of new addition capacity. So this is how global PVC demand supply stacks up. We can see over 21 there was a drop in consumption in 22 because of various issues. We will come to that later. 23, of course, it's expected it would be little better from demand perspective, but if you see from operating point of view, it's going to be that's what we are getting fillers that as far as operating rates are concerned, it's going to be worse than 2022. But then once the situation normalizes globally, operating rates is supposed to, and it will pick up. That's what I feel. This is India PVC demand supply. Operating rates, of course, since India is such in short capacity, I'm sure operating rates are not a problem. I would like to focus mainly on the demand side. So demand side, 5 million tons, I think by 2027-28, India should be 5 million tons PVC demand. Capacity numbers, of course, there have been announcements, and as and when it comes, it would materialize. But the main, I would say, the focus point of this is the way our demand is shaping up in India.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and pleasure to be interacting and seeing such a large gathering. Really, on behalf of CRISIL, I'm happy to be presenting here. My presentation. Oh, sorry. You need to switch it here also.
Can we have the next presentation on the screen, please?
Yeah, just apologies for this technical glitch. In the meanwhile, I'll just anyway start off, and I think my previous speaker has clearly, articulated in great depth with respect to demand. I think my presentation quite overlaps with what he kind of, presented, but clearly, the larger messages from the overall story that we have is of clearly, strong growth potential, and I think there's absolutely no two ways about it in terms of. No, I'm not able to click. Sorry, yeah, thank you. So I think the story remains very congruent to what my previous speaker just spoke. I think from an overall demand potential, I think clearly the segue is fairly strong in terms of our population as we become the most populous country, and there are significant infrastructure needs and the clear focus that we see from the government with respect to investments on the rural side as well as water related investments that we are seeing. They provide a very, very strong segue. And secondly, the larger point on sustainability, I think, will come into the picture more and more strongly. Although, for competing materials, etc., we are also seeing a movement towards sustainability. We are talking about green steel, and we are starting to see some very early signs of, investments coming through. But I think on the larger life cycle cost that one looks at, I think PVC has a very, very critical role to play in many of the critical applications, especially on the piping and fitting side. Very, very critical, role that we see going ahead. From a medium to long term, on a big picture message, over the next 4 to 5 years, we are looking at close to about 8% kind of growth number going forward. And at an overall level, we continue to be a very large exporter, as we saw in the previous presentation. I think to some extent we will bridge that gap, but given the global dynamics, will have a very critical role to play in terms of players' decision making with respect to adding fresh capacity. We'll have to see how that evolves, but clearly we are at a too low a level right now, and things should pick up as we move ahead going forward. As was earlier also highlighted, the demand story in India as far as the PVC segment is concerned, very, very closely mirrors what we see in terms of the overall GDP. The alignment has been quite strong, and if you look at this graph that has been highlighted on the screen, I think from this it's very, very clear the degree of correlation that you see. Although the time space is not very large, but I think the pattern mapping clearly shows there is a big alignment there. In the overall, over the next couple of years, I think the focus that we see in terms of the overall, the piping segment, the kind of construction spends that we are seeing, overall at a country-wide level across all industrial segments, infrastructure segments, we are expecting over the next 3 to 4 years almost a 1.7 to 1.9x increase in overall construction spending that is going to happen, which in turn provides a lot of opportunities. And also on the irrigation front, I think last couple of years have been relatively slow in terms of investments. We expect a pickup to kind of come through in that going forward. And states increasingly are again after a hiccups, we see encouraging signs from budgets of some of the states like UP, MP, Rajasthan, Gujarat. I think on the water supply and sanitation side, we do expect that to kickstart. And of course, the larger Jal Jeevan mission is one key large story going forward that has a very important role to play in the overall demand dynamics as we move ahead. In terms of the mix for the overall demand perspective, here again we are expecting the market to move towards close to 5 million tons from about 3+ that we are right now. And given the kind of, substitution potentially that we are seeing in segments such as piping and also newer applications, as was spoken about, with respect to PVC frames, windows, etc., we are expecting fairly strong growth in some of those segments. On the piping side, we are expecting, again, a 8 to 9% growth to come about over the next few years. Films and sheets, again, is again an important segment where we are seeing, because of the overall growth in some of the consumption related spaces and the pharmaceutical space, which also are at a structurally sweet spot of, again, 8 to 10% kind of growth that we see in many of the pharmaceutical related spaces, and also on the consumption side.
Speaking in this forum and this in presence of this August gathering rather. So my topic is PVC, the game-changing solutions in modern piping industry. And now, whenever I talk something about PVC, I start with this slide. This is a fun fact. Just see if the whole, really surprising to know that if the European PVC pipe is converted into 110 millimeter drain pipe at 1.7 kg per meter, then it would be equal to a staggering distance of 7,53,294 kilometers. It is only just Europe. So if we add the whole earth, then what will be the distance? I do not know. So the topic is PVC, game-changing solutions in the modern piping systems. And I approached this topic like this, that there are three very important key points. One is PVC, another is modern piping system, and lastly, the game-changing solutions. Now, if we start about saying PVC, it is unique and versatile. I do not want to repeat about the PVC structures, characters, and all these things in front of this August gathering, because you all know what is PVC. Only thing I want to tell that the kind of material, PVC is a kind of material which can be processed by all the processing techniques which are available for the plastic industry. That is the most versatile and unique property of PVC. Because of that, I think we are all here, and it was discovered in 1872 by Dr. Fritz Clate, and let us pay our homage to this gentleman, this scientist. Because of him, we have all gathered in this gathering. So, what is the trick behind PVC? It is the unique role of chlorine, I think. And the chlorine, it makes the difference, and it is the key of all the properties which is making PVC different from other polymers. Again, I am not going to explain each and everything. Chlorine imparts certain roles and properties which makes it fire resistance, which helps its identify to, as a plastic waste in the commingled condition. So these are the role of chlorine in PVC. Now let us come to the modern piping system. Modern piping systems, what does it mean basically? It means that it's a type of plumbing system that uses advanced material, advanced design, and advanced installation techniques to provide safe, efficient, and reliable transport of liquids and gases. Now you see what are the ranges has been covered by PVC pipes. They are used in commercial as well as industrial applications, but can be found in residential settings also. So PVC gives you the range, coverage, and superior performance and reliability, longevity. All these things makes it more and more say easily used in the modern piping system. Not only that, PVC, the say piping extrusion technique has also come a lot, and recently AI and other things is being used in the PVC extrusion system. That will come later. Now these are the different types of PVC which is available. PVC unplasticized, PVC plasticized, these are all very popular in the industry. But I am very much hopeful about the last three products, that is CPVC, OPVC and MPVC. These are the products of the future which actually help the industry to go and which will help us to say go into the future with the different applications of PVC. This is the Indian piping and fitting industry. This is an overview. It is highly fragmented. You can see that there are several important players in the market. The CAGR is about 11%, which is quite, I should say, optimistic. And major categories in which they are used, they are basically
Of slides, so don't worry.
See, this is the original revolutionary, no slides.
Because I can make slides. I've never made my speech also. I just made it here. So if it is relevant, please feel it is relevant. If it is not, I'm sorry for it. Thank you, friends, to give me a chance to speak about CPVC. Until yesterday, I was in a wildlife sanctuary, and today I'm in front of you. But the thing which I wanted to bring you in a small village where I was saying, very small village, about 1,000 people staying, CPVC was there. And CPVC is there in Mumbai also. So CPVC has penetrated from the smallest town of India to the biggest city of India. So the landscape of CPVC, when I started CPVC 25 years back, exactly 25 years back, we are this year going to celebrate 25 years of Astral. And first 5 years, when I was sitting in exhibitions, when I was trying to sell CPVC, nobody was accepting it. Many people visited my stall and said that this is never going to be a successful product in India. And now everyone talks about CPVC from this dais, and that's the game changer product in the vinyl industry. The good thing is that Reliance has started speaking about CPVC. So thank you, sir. You have at last accepted that CPVC does exist in India and it is a growing polymer. And when Reliance speaks, we all have to be happy about it. Today, when I see the landscape of India, it is one of the fastest growing economy in infrastructure segment. But how much would be the role of CPVC and how much would be the role of PVC is very important. Way back when we started CPVC, the initial phase, and if you see the CPVC industry globally, it came into the world almost when I was born, 1960s. And there was one producer, BF Godrej. For years, Godrej dominated this product and through licensing system. So it was not a free product available like PVC. It was a controlled product by BF Godrej, and then came the Japanese Kaneka and later or equal Sekisui. I don't remember the dates when they entered, but very small capacity. And I can tell you, till I entered this CPVC, it was still Godrej who dominated the CPVC segment. And then at almost 12 years to 15 years, I can not remember the exact time, we were only 3 manufacturers in India. First was us for almost 6-7 years, and then we are joined by 2 other manufacturers. And then came the Japanese who entered the Indian market, and then came the revolution with the China bringing CPVC and flooding the Indian market. With China coming here, the whole game changed. And I would thank all these suppliers who changed the way CPVC is looked upon today. If they were not there, there won't have been so many manufacturers in India. And if there were not so many manufacturers, the Indian companies would have never thought of making CPVC here. Today, DCW is there, but Many big companies are thinking to now get into CPVC. Then came the era of blocking China. It was a good thing and it was a bad thing, because some way the growth of this polymer was hampered by this thing. I can tell you, if this was a free-flowing material coming, this would have been a bigger market than this, the market which is today. Because if you go and see the chemistry, I'm a chemical engineer, I'm out of this place in polymer, my life is all gone with chemical, and again going back to chemical again. I'm more busy in my chemical industry today than getting into my plastics, because it's taken care by my next generation more. But if you see, the CPVC when made gives you a higher output. 1 kg of PVC gives you more kg of CPVC. I know it, but I don't want to discuss the numbers here. But if the right raw material cost is taken, I'm pleading to the manufacturers who will be tomorrow walking in, and some sitting in the audience also is already making CPVC. If the right price of CPVC is there today, and which was actually the 1.2 or $1 which was brought, was a good price for a polymer to grow. Still, if it remains in a controlled position in this fastest growing CPVC market, we will have growth issues coming as time goes if we don't get the material made out of India. The price of CPVC should be such that it can convert some of the PVC market. It is going to convert PVC market in some. It is not going to convert PP anyway. It is going to convert PVC market in the infrastructure segment for the plumbing or various applications. And it is a right product and a right product for any infrastructure usage, for hot water, cold water, for fire sprinkler, and various applications which it can be used in chemical industry, etc. Today, we have many challenges in CPVC, which together we must address. One is the biggest challenge CPVC faces is the counterfeit. Biggest challenge, and nobody is getting together. This forum should be used to fight this menace of the market, the issues of the market. We must exactly get together and see from where this starts. And we must talk to those machine suppliers. If somebody makes a pipe, there is a machine behind it. If somebody makes a counterfeit, there is a printer behind it. These go from these very forum where these suppliers are sitting. And we need to address this biggest issue of polymer is to how to get rid of these counterfeit. If we counterfeit moves fast, the polymer gets a bad name because CPVC has a special application for hot water. The second issue is the branded and unbranded. There are branded products. Everyone is branded to me. Nobody is small or big. But there are many big...
Yes, I gave up my seat at Manchester City tonight to be here. So it means a lot to me to present in my third innings here at Vinyl India. And thank you to Nidhi and her team and the organising committee for giving me this opportunity. So yeah, apart from being a Manchester City fan, I'm a mad Welshman. So why would a Welshman be wearing an England cricket jersey? I wouldn't be seen dead in an England football shirt. Well, the answer is simple. This crest is the cricket board of England and Wales, which most people don't know. So when you play in England, you're actually playing England and Wales. So I just wanted to clarify that. So PVC stabilisers, cricketing theme, why? Well, hopefully I'm not going to pour water in the wine, but I've heard so many positive things today about PVC in India. I'd like to look at things from a little bit of a global perspective, where we faced a few more cricket balls coming in the direction of PVC than we'd like to. And I'd hope to maybe give you some insights of how you can avoid to need to wear pads, a box, a helmet and gloves so that you can prepare for these bounces should they arrive. So, my 6 balls will contain information about the current state of play, the score around PVC usage, particularly stabiliser usage globally. looking at it from the perspective of pre-pandemic to today. Also, a piece around 30 years of sledging, bodyline deliveries that we've had to endure, and how Vinyl Plus in Europe have dealt with that, and we're still not out. Certainly, the next event, current and very, very much news from the CRISIL, is the investigation ongoing now in Europe into PVC and its additives, led by the European Commission, by its chemical agency ECHA. And then a little bit about how you can use the third umpire to get the decision you need, about taking your message externally to protect yourself against these bouncers. We've heard a little bit about the supply shortages, and I just want to touch on that, about not being caught out and what we can do about that. And finally, for the next double century, a little bit about Baerlocher. So what's the score? The situation today, from the blue circles here, highlighted these regions, has been generally fairly static throughout the last 3 years, where we had a surge of demand immediate during the pandemic. This is now flattened out, and in fact, those, with the exception of South America, those circles in blue are now definitely negative again, as we've heard from other speakers today who were involved in PVC supply. And that's mainly caused by external effects which have driven inflation up. The Asian situation predominantly has been pretty dramatically affected. We estimate actually there's been a drop in the last 3 years of up to 15% in demand. Most of it actually globally, most of it coming from Asia, predominantly most of it in China and in North and Southeast Asia. So as I said, third time of batting here. The last 2 times I've given you the same data. And this data is basically showing how much PVC is stabilised by which stabiliser grouping. So when we look at 2016, you could see still lead was pretty much the predominant stabiliser used globally. 2019, we could start to see calcium base coming back. So this slide here is 2019. So as I go to the next slide, I want you to concentrate on the bottom 2 bars. And you can see quite clearly, if I go back, if we look at Northeast Asia in particular, it's gone very, very green. Whereas the region covering India, Africa, Turkey, Middle East has really not changed dramatically in the amount of PVC which is stabilised containing lead. And certainly there's around 2 million tonnes of PVC still containing lead here in India. But overall, the picture is that 20 million tonnes of PVC has gone down to below 6 million tonnes. And if we think about the pipe sector here and what's expected over the next years, we'll expect to see that level of green increase significantly. So specifically here in India, yeah, there's an umpire with his finger up. So we've already had, at least for the pipe sector, the message, get out of lead. And that's expected now over the next 4 years to be completed in line with the expectations of the mandate received. Roughly 37–38% of what used to be lead has been replaced so far by calcium-based, and our projection here shows that by the end of 2025, at least 70% of PVC will be lead-free. That still leaves some of the unrecognised sector, cables and other applications still with potentially some lead in, but my own personal view is I think that actually that will not be the case, that it will actually accelerate further. So 30 years, yeah, it is really 30 years plus that we've been attacked really by NGOs who have influenced policymakers. So here on this slide, and you can see on the left side, the original paper, the green paper, which really triggered the whole birth of Vinyl Plus. Because of end-of-life concerns and of the toxic chemicals that were in PVC, there was going to be legislation placed against the polymer. And subsequently, Vinyl Plus was formed, Vinyl 2010, some of you will remember the name, And probably the story doesn't need to be told about what was achieved. We survived, and then hopefully we thought, right, we've got a good run ahead of us. And then the Green Deal comes along on the right-hand side in 2020 from the EU, and this is all around.
Thank you. Now to Mr. Saumya Chakrabarti, Director, Technical Finolex Industries. Thank you. Mr. Sandeep, Engineer, Chairman and MD, Astral Limited. Thank you, sir. Finally, Mr. Andy Jones, Global SBU Head, Baerlocher, Germany. May I now request Ms. Khushbu Chandrakant Doshi to please come and hand over the memento to our sir. Thank you, ma'am. This is for Mr. Ramkumar Shankar, Managing Director, Chemplast, Sanmar. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, could we have a huge round of applause? That was our first business session here.
Thank you very much, everyone. I think this is the best session because this is the session before lunch. After lunch becomes a little difficult, so we end on this session. Thank you so much. Over to lunch.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for the networking lunch, and that will be for about 15 minutes. So I request you to come back to the conference area in 15 minutes as we will be proceeding with our next session.